What is going on, everybody? It's your boy RonMan coming back, and today we're taking a look at Super Alfred Chicken for the Super Nintendo. Also, if you're new here and you like my content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as that bell notification so you stay up to date with RonMan Gaming. Alfred Chicken, or as I like to call it, Chicken Alfredo, is an action platformer that was developed by Twilight and published by Mindscape back in 1993. Chicken Alfredo was released on a whole plethora of platforms including the Amiga, Amiga CD32, the Game Boy, the NES, and of course, the Super Nintendo. Today we're taking a look at the Super Nintendo version titled Super Alfred Chicken. From what I can gather, the story here is that someone, maybe the Mecha Chickens, are trying to gather chicken eggs to turn them into more Mecha Chickens, and they're evil because they've arbitrarily chosen to be, and you're here to stop them from being evil. And you're a chicken named Alfred. With a story like that, they should have made an epic RPG. Alfred can jump, peck, and float slowly downward. To attack while in the air, press down to do a dive bomb. You'll also collect a number of different items like gems, presents, cans, and watering cans. The structure here is that you just have to get to the end of the stage and peck at the large sunflower balloon. In total, there are 21 stages with the occasional boss stage and bonus stage. Throughout the game, you'll be jumping, dive bombing, collecting items, you know, all the typical stuff you'd expect from a game like this. Collecting 100 gems will get you an extra life. The presents grant invincibility for a limited time. Cans give you an offensive barrier, and in each stage, there's a hidden room with a watering can. If you collect every watering can in the game, you'll get the true ending. Peppered throughout the stages are tiny puzzles that are not too hard to figure out, like here where you have to activate the switch using that ball thing. As you progress further into the game, there is a much bigger emphasis on these switches. Chicken Alfredo is not the easiest game, and I think this is due to the fact that you die in just one hit. Although thankfully, there are several checkpoints in each stage as represented by these small balloons that you can peck. After each boss fight, the game will give you a password, so you won't have to beat this in one sitting. So how does Chicken Alfredo hold up, and is it worth your time? In my opinion, no. Here's why. I find the controls to be kinda stiff and jank. I had a lot of trouble bouncing off of springs, and it always seemed to happen at the worst times. Like this area here where there's a huge saw slowly climbing up the screen. Also, if you want to descend slowly to the ground, just hold the jump button while airborne, which is fine. But if you want to dive bomb, you'll need to let go of the jump button before you press down. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but I died quite a few times before I got used to that. I'd be hovering above an enemy, and while attempting to dive bomb, I'd collide with him before I realized I was still holding the jump button. Also, there are some areas where you may die a bunch of times before you figure out what to do. In other words, it's trial and error, but you don't have unlimited lives or continues. For example, going back to the area with the big saw, you'll eventually get to this part here, but it seemed like there was no way you could move fast enough to make it up. I finally realized that I had to peck this piece of wood in order for the saw to get stuck, thus giving me enough time. Are you kidding me? Why did I need to peck the wood first? You'd think that the saw would have gotten stuck on it either way. Anyway, as soon as you're done with the saw, you go through the door and you're taken here. Well, I'm not really too sure what to do. That thing looks dangerous. Do I just walk past it? Let me try. Nope. Okay, so I died. And guess what? I have to do the previous room all over again. You know, the room with the saw? Ugh, it would have been great if there was a checkpoint immediately after the saw. In fact, I found a handful of examples where checkpoints were placed in silly locations, such as right after the beginning of a stage. There's also a timer in Chicken Alfredo. At first, it wasn't a problem, but much later in the game, the levels become so big and maze-like. I ended up dying a lot simply because I ran out of time. The later stages heavily rely on the switches, and you'll be walking around trying to figure out where they are and whether or not you actually need to press them. Sometimes you need the switches on, but other times they need to be off. The only way to know is to walk around the level to try to memorize where everything is. There were a few times where I would accidentally stumble into the room with the secret watering can, which was a pleasant surprise, or so I thought. It turns out after you find that room and collect the watering can, you'll return back to the regular stage, but now all the switches have been set back to their default setting. So if you were in the middle of trying to figure out the puzzle, you'll have to start that all over again. But of course, the level timer isn't reset. So overall, the level design in this game game is not great. When I first started this game, I thought it was just a plain mediocre, boring platformer, but the further I got, the more I realized that this game is just a confusing, frustrating mess. One neat thing that I'll mention is that this game features a warp zone. As far as I can tell, there's only one, but you can find it in the very first stage. Instead of hitting the sunflower balloon at the end, jump here to reveal a hidden block. Climb up here, and just above the screen to the left, you'll be taken to a warp zone. You actually have a choice of which level to warp to, but the furthest level you can warp to is stage 6. It's not much, but it can help. And if anyone watching this video knows of any other warp zones, please let me know down in the comments. In terms of graphics, well, you've been looking at them. Do you like them? I sure don't, and these awful graphics are evident as soon as the game is turned on. These opening screens are cheap looking, and it really doesn't get much better. As soon as you start a new game, this is what you see. Really? It looks like a higher resolution, bad-looking NES game. Chicken Alfredo does not make a good first impression, but as the game continues, it does improve, but only a little bit. The first 7 stages look like this. Who thought that those were nice-looking backgrounds? By stage 8, the game starts to look more like this, but it quickly goes back to stages that look like this. Overall, Chicken Alfredo looks like something you'd see in a coloring book, or a porno magazine. What do those look like? They must have done that on purpose. The music, in my opinion, is also not great. In fact, the music is downright annoying. Just about every stage has this music. Ugh, just turn down the volume and listen to anything else. So all in all, Chicken Alfredo is not a great game, but you could do worse. It's not nearly as bad as games like the Flintstones movie game or Home Improvement, but it's still not worth playing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is RonMan. Comment down below, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.